This video is going to level up your coding a bunch by teaching you variables. Variables become more and more important as we go through this series, so make sure to pay attention. Always pause and rewind as you need to if anything's unclear, because that's the awesome thing about learning from video. So we know that this line prints our part size, or whatever property we put here. And we know this line changes our part size to whatever we put here on this side of the equal sign. But what else can we do with this line of code? We can actually save it. But why would we want to save it? Let's think about our code like a recipe again. At the beginning of a recipe, it tells you you're going to need a half cup of flour, a quarter cup of sugar, whatever. And now you know every time the recipe says to do something with flour, it's talking about that half cup of flour from the beginning. If we were to write that in our code, it'd look like this. Flour equals half cup of flour. This says that every time in our recipe we use the word flour, we're talking about this half cup here. But with code, instead of saving ingredients, we can save information about our part size, our character's stats, all sorts of stuff. In this series, we represent it visually by putting a value in a box with the name we want to use. So for our flour example, we put this half cup of flour in a box named flour. And now we know when we say flour, we mean this half cup. In this lesson, we're going to save our part size in a box called start size. And now we know when we say start size, we're talking about our part size that we save in it. We're going to name our variable start size by writing local start size equals and then our line of code that gets our part size from earlier. You always have your variable name to the left of the equal sign and then what you want to save in it as the value to the right. And so this is just storing our size in a container that we've named start size. And in this case, we've written local, which makes it so our start size variable is only used in this script. As you create a game, you might end up creating multiple scripts that use variables that have the same name. And if we didn't have this local here, it might confuse the computer and use this start size in another script that you don't mean it to. So we put local just to make sure our variable is safe and locked to this one script. So this all might be a little bit confusing at this point. If it is, I totally understand. So let's use a simpler example. So we're just going to move all this down out of the way, and we're going to create a brand new variable for us to test out. So let's create a new variable, write local, and then give it whatever name you want. In this case, I'm going to put age, and then equals, and then a number. So I'm just going to go with 9 for now. So now we're storing this number 9 in a variable that we've named age. Now when I write print age, it's going to print the number we've saved inside of it. Okay, let's go to view and output to open our output window, and we see, yep, this number 9 has printed because that's what we've saved in our variable age. So this line says to save the number 9 in a container that we've named age. This line says to print the value that we've stored in age. That's how variables work. Once you save something in a variable, anytime you use its name in your code, it uses the value you stored inside of it instead of just the name. So if you write print age plus 1, we see it prints out the age like we wrote on line 2, and then it prints out 10, which is age plus 1, which we wrote on line 3. You can also change what's saved in the variable by writing the name again and then equals whatever the new value is. So let's say we want 11. You also leave off the local this time because the variable has already been created and we're just updating the value. Let's think about this like a recipe again. Instead of age here, let's say our recipe is saving 1 tablespoon of butter in a variable called butter. Then later on, it has a step that says melt the butter. Now we know that whenever the recipe is talking about butter, it's talking about our melted butter, not the unmelted butter we had at the very beginning. So if we were to write this out like it's code, it'd look like this. We save the tablespoon of butter at the start, so now we know what we're talking about when we say butter. Then we update our variable butter with a value of melted butter, so that when the recipe says butter in the next steps, we know it's talking about the melted butter, not the unmelted butter we had at the start. But in this case, we're just updating our age variable from 9 to 11. And we see we've saved 9 in the age, so that's what it uses to print for the statements above the line where we set the age to 11. And then after, it prints out 11 because that's what we've saved in the final variable before our final print statement. We can also give the variable whatever name we want. So I can just type in some random letters here, and as long as I use the exact same name everywhere I want my variable, it will work the exact same. And when we run the code, we get the exact same result. So let's delete all this up here, and we'll actually use a variable in our game. So right here, just like we were saving the number 9 in our variable called age, we're saving the workspace.spinnerPart.size in our start size. So we're saving this value 4, 1, 2 in our start size. Okay, I'm also going to delete this top print statement and this line that's changing our spinner part size at the beginning. So now we only have this line that's saving our spinner part size in a variable that we've named start size. And if I hit play, nothing should change. Our block fell down because it's not anchored, but besides that, no other changes occurred. That's because all this line is doing, the only thing it does is it saves whatever property we put here for whatever part we've named here. It takes it and it saves it in the variable with whatever name we put here. So I'm just going to leave it as start size for now. We're going to add a weight 5 just to make everything easier to see. Then we write a line to change our part size just like normal. So workspace dot spinner part dot size equals vector3 dot new, and let's give it a random size. I'm going to go really big with it. I'm going to go 20, 20, 20. So it's going to be 20 studs in every direction. So let's see what happens. Okay, our part waits 5 seconds and gets huge. Awesome. And now if we want to change it back to our original size, I'm going to add another weight 5, again, just to make it easier to see. You don't really need those, but it makes stuff easier to see. Okay, and we want to change our part size again to set it back to the original. So workspace dot spinner part dot size equals vector3 dot new. But actually, instead of writing this vector3.new, we can just put our start size, which we saved at the beginning. So we saved our first size here, then we wait 5 seconds, we update our size here, we wait another 5 seconds, and then we update our size here, but this time back to the size we saved in our first line. So let's see. So change the size, and then it should change back. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. And see, if we print out our start size, it prints out 4, 1, 2, which is exactly the size of our part if we select it in the window and look at its properties. So we had with our part selected, we scroll down to the size, and yep, it's exactly 4, 1, 2 to start off with. And we can actually save whatever we want in here. So we could save like our own new vector3. So if we wanted it to save, let's say 5, 5, 5, and then we ran it, our part starts as its normal part size, then it changes to 20, and then it should change back to 5 by 5 by 5. Because we saved this 5 by 5 by 5 in here, this line is the exact same as writing this line. So you just learned how to store a value in a variable. And if you totally understand this, then you can call yourself a level 1 programmer. You've leveled up. If not, just keep trying. Great coders always keep trying and figure it out eventually. When you're ready, in the next lesson, we're going to make our first spinning part. So keep following on with the series.